So, working on putting the dash together on this.
All it takes is one job, oh yeah. All it takes is one job, and everything is gonna be okay.
Got our airbag, the lower part of the dash there. You can see I have some saran wrap laying up here. What I'm doing with that is fiberglass doesn't stick to it. So like when I'm doing this, I'm grinding this down to get the raw material there. You can kind of see that it's just ground down plastic, and I'm doing it with a 24 grit, just a real aggressive grit on a little 3-inch there. So then I'm brushing the fiberglass resin on the plastic to make sure it's really in there. Then I'm putting the fiberglass mat over it, and that's when I use the saran wrap. I'm putting the saran wrap over this, and then that way I can work it in. I can press it down on this piece. This was our broken piece off of the dash, but its flexing kind of helped out with the way the dash is fitting in here, because it seemed to not want to sit quite flat there. So what I plan to do, the reason I didn't do the outside there, is I can work the outside here and push it down into this little gutter like that, and then fiberglass resin that, and then that'll be my shape. I think I'm going to, because these little clips clip this trim piece that goes around here, I think I'm going to cut around those clips and just kind of have it go around those. And so this will set down in there, it'll go around those clips, and then the trim will cover that edge up kind of. This part of it had a gap here, so I left some more, or left it long, and then that will kind of fold around like that. You know, I'm not usually too much of a fiberglass guy. I can do it. Making this out of metal was just going to be pretty intense, and really the major drawback of it was working on top of a plastic dash with all this foam insulation and plastic inside of it and all the wiring, and the concern of melting stuff, catching stuff on fire. I already caught some stuff on fire when I was welding this in there, and it's just no fun. It's hard to get the fire out without hurting any of the electronics or stuff. I had to clean all this melted, mostly just caught an air vent on fire that had some foam on it for just the foam was just for anti-rattle kind of deal. Very flammable, lit right up, melted the vent, and didn't cause too much more damage. So it was lucky that I didn't burn down a wiring harness or something, but I think we'll go with fiberglass. This fiberglass will, or the saran wrap will just make it to where that fiberglass isn't going to go down in there, and it'll release from this piece when I put it on. So I'm gonna mess with this, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do it. Okay, so I brushed a little resin on there, and then stuck my mat on, and then put my saran wrap over so I could seat it down on that dash real good and try to get the air bubbles out. And you can see, like, there's an air bubble. Boop, goes out. That'll help it have good adhesion there. And then I'm putting it on this table like this because it needs to go flat onto that cowling there. And then I folded this one up because it needs to go down the side of the dash there. So kind of just getting things kind of to go in the direction I need to get it to start going. Now, this is actually getting pretty hard, kind of goopy. You want to be careful because like this jar right here, because it has all that resin in the bottom, it's actually going to get pretty hot. So I'm going to move it off the dash there so it's not getting that real hot. Sometimes you grab that sucker and it'll burn you, it'll bite you, it'll get you. First thing I need to do is get this glued back together here. So I'm going to put a little fiberglass resin on the backing here and the mat there, and then screw the dash in. I have the screws that attach it normally to the Duramax, and so I'll put in those screws to get this to sit where it's supposed to, and then we'll get this all to settle out. It had a little crack when it was in the Duramax, and then after storage and messing with it, it's cracked all the way through. But it's kind of helped settle this in the orientation that it needs to be to go in this truck a little easier. So let's get that resin together. Thank you. So I got this. This is the piece, that trim piece that covers that edge there, and I really don't like how this looks. This is going to be right behind the glass, and it'll have this weird like dead spot here. So I think what I need to do is cut this back and reshape this a little rounder, so you know, like a lost penny going down in here is going to be there for life until you take that windshield out. There's no way you could get down there and clean it out, so that's just not going to work. It needs to come back and roll, but that's kind of also hard because I have to have it roll into that front cover. So it's going to have to be up here pretty tight, but then it's going to have to fade out here. There'll be an interesting shape for sure, but this ain't going to work. Okay, so I kind of have our shape. I have our plastic wrap underneath. I have our fiberglass mat here to kind of make our shape, and we'll try to kind of keep it bubbled up as we work it and not let it sink down too much. Pretty happy with it. Now I need to cut these out and then smooth this up a little bit. So I think we're gonna pull it. So I got it all cleaned up and I got these in here, and it won't work with this piece. So I'm gonna cover these up. I'm gonna add in some fiberglass and cover those. And then I gotta make a vent area here for the vent. So we're making some progress on the new shape, our new shape on the end, and not using this trim piece. I need to make an even gap so the seal can sit here. As you can see, like that's a little tight. That's probably about right there, and this looks good here. And then I made little vents for where the defrost comes through. Just a little relief, and the defrost vent is down in there. But just gonna even it up now. But it's starting to take shape. I kind of got this part of the dash. I got my gap around the edge nice. I got the defrost vents looking correct. I don't really need to go any further with it. We'll do a 1/8 inch or less foam pad over the everything, and then wrap it in a cloth, leather, vinyl, or whatever he chooses. I kind of have these nice little finishes to the edges and stuff like that. Kind of nice little angles on the vent pieces. It's really nice and smooth into the, they have a little holder here for whatever you got in the Suburbans here, or Duramaxes. But this is kind of how this needs to be. I'll probably widen that gap out a little bit right there to go around that pillar. And so nothing really needs to happen there. But on the side here, we do need, you know, this to fill in. I don't want it to just go to like a 90-degree here, because that's not going to look natural. What I'd like it to do, I don't know if that'll stay, but it needs to curve. Like this piece right here would curve around. It would just continue like this, curved in here, if that was the finished product from factory. Kind of see here, there's not much of a gap there, so what I need to do is kind of cut that open a little wider so I can roll this a little bit better when I go to fiberglass and whatnot. I might use this, I have that black door board. I might use that for kind of some structure behind the fiberglass. I also need to make sure the dash can still pop off like it does, so we can take it on and off as needed.